We're going to pivot because we're on time, and I think each one of these topics, actually, we could talk about for days. But, you know, I was sitting there and I was watching the piece, and when I saw that white Bronco, it just took me back to a time where I think, you know, as my mother would say, I'm going to quote her a lot because I love her. She said, people are showing who they are now. And when you think about the fact that, you know, some people, like recently I heard a rapper, Lil Wayne, he disappointed me. He said racism doesn't exist. And you know, and I said, what world do you live in? The reason why I bring that up is because the O.J. Simpson trial was something that was very pivotal in how we looked at race. It really showed the racial divide and lines like never before. I mean, that scene where the kids are jumping up in college and everybody's saying yes, and then you have another group who are in disbelief. And you know, my mom told me, she said, OJ is guilty as hell. And she said, I don't care. And so when you think about that, it represents a microcosm of America's struggle with race. If you think about the fact that now we have a presidential campaign where there is so much, and people don't care because they're voting for who they're voting for. And so my question to the panel, and I'll start with you, Doctor, to my left right here. What's our O.J. Simpson today, and what do we do about it? I'm good, right? I'm good. Okay.
I'll tell you this. I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I got to differentiate because I am the executive director of the Michigan Department of Civil Rights. So I'm going to put that aside. I'm going to talk as a person of color, just for a moment.
Thank you.
I think our OJ today is Black Lives Matter. And I know my staff's going to kill me. Don't go there.
We got
director.
your back. We got his
Don't
back, right?
Go there. You're the director. You can't do that. But that's the issue. Think about how those who are not color view that. To me, it reflects how we view 1967 in Detroit. If you ask the white, it's the riots of '67. If you ask a black person, the rebellion of '67. But have we sat there for a moment and had some real discussion? Why the difference? What's underlying there? What's taking place there? Why view it one way versus another way? How we view that. And I think about the tragedies that we have in Michigan. W.K. Kellogg did a study on race for results, and I wrote it down. And it was a composite of 12 measures of success for children. After all, what legacy are we leaving, right? What are we leaving? The score out of 1,000 for white children in Michigan was 688. For African American children, that score was 244. We got to deal with that. We've got to address that. And yet we find it difficult to sit in the same room and have those real hard discussions.
Well, you just teed Shirley up, because if it's anybody in the world, and by the way, Shirley literally changed my life with her multicultural leadership series. I would not be here today if Shirley hadn't had my back 10 years ago. I just had to put that out there. But those crucial conversations, those safe, no-fault environments for us to strip down and have the real conversations, right, around those racial lines. You know, again, people need to come out of hiding and just really have that conversation. Where does that start, Shirley?
Well, it really starts by really getting to know each other. But in taking the situations, the O.J. situation and then the Black Lives Matter, in the O.J. situation for For whites, it was about the evidence. For African Americans, it was about the system. It was a system again. And that's based upon our experience. And so when that happened, I remember when the verdict came, I was at the Detroit Athletic Club having lunch. And I was downstairs, and they had a big screen. First time they had a screen downstairs. And I watched, when the verdict came in, I watched the reaction of most of the folks who were sitting there and the reaction of the waiters. And I wish the waiters just started skipping. They were most African Americans, really. And the white folks said, no, this didn't happen. But it has to do with how you're looking at it. And that really sparked a lot of conversations where people could say, let me tell you why, as an African American, I understand what happened. I understand why folks are happy. Same thing with Black Lives Matter. I read, when you say Black Lives Matter, everybody says, well, white lives matter too, blue lives matter. I read something recently where I was the CEO of some major organization who said, let me just say, if I say I love my daughter, do you say, well, do you love your son? It's the same thing. No, you just say, okay, I love my daughter. People feel it's very important for them to say that, but begin to have conversations. I'm not going to blame you. You don't blame me. Let's have a conversation about my life's experiences, and you can talk about your life's experiences, and then that's a way for us to begin to understand each other. And so those conversations are really key. The folks, and Peter said it earlier, the folks sitting in those corporate boardrooms need to hear from us. Here's what my life has been like. You know, you need to understand that. And by the way, all Black people don't have the same lives.
Right.
And it's important for you to know that. No community is monolithic, which is what we say. Everybody has different experiences. So having the courage to talk, because we all know, all Black people talk to Black people, Latino people talk to Latino people. Let's begin to talk across those racial lines so we can really get to understand each other really a lot better.
So I see my girl Kim is itching. Thank you, Shirley. Now, just so you know, Shirley does this, and she knows how to have these tough conversations. And before you jump in, Kim, I think, you know, one of the things that I'm hoping for towards the end of this panel is how we start talking about unifying solutions. Because at the end of the day, if we don't find a way to work together, man, it'll be another 50 years of the same old BS. And I don't want that. My kids, I don't want them to inherit that. So, Kim, I know you had some comments you wanted to jump in real quick.
Well, real quick, I just want to say it's interesting when we talk about framing again. There's this mythology in kind of the American psyche of this idea of rugged individualism, which is something that is a luxury that white people can afford. But when they look at Black people, it's all about the collective, which is why they're able to stereotype, which is why people are able to talk about what our experience is in the inner city,
Right.
because they have this, you know, when it comes to us, it's all about, this is how you function. But we don't have the luxury. So that's why all Black men can be seen as a threat by the very people who are entrusted with protecting us. I mean, if you're afraid of a community, you should not be entrusted with protecting that community.